Chapter 2487. This was a very scary thing for a family that was used to a high income. Once the family's main source of income was cut off, the family would fall apart at an alarming rate. Rebecca thought that Murphy was really going to lose his job. "Murphy, we can't let this happen. What should I do?" "Catch the guy who attacked the cows," Rebecca said. "You're a vampire." Murphy suddenly stood up. "That thing killed a cow for 2 days in a row and ate more than half of it. This means that this guy has a huge appetite. Maybe he can't help but come back to steal the cows tonight. Then what are you waiting for? Go catch that guy." At Rebecca's urging, Murphy hurried out. Murphy was used to the darkness. In the past 2 years, he had been nocturnal almost every day. In the past, he had been afraid of the darkness, but now he was no longer afraid. Murphy found a familiar place to settle down. Not far away were the cows. Under the night sky, the cows were very quiet. They were bunched up together. This kind of group activity could help them scare off the predators. During Murphy's time as a night patroller here, he had at most driven away the predators who came here to hunt. However, those predators were only a few North American wolves or cougars. This kind of predator could be considered as a second or third level predator. Most of their prey were sheep. They couldn't hunt herds of cows or horses. And Murphy wasn't difficult to deal with. The cougars basically ran away when they saw Murphy. Only the wolves were a little tricky. However, as long as they were beaten up by Murphy, the wolves would also run away dejectedly. Even after nearly 2 years, Murphy had become familiar with several nearby wolf packs. Occasionally, Murphy would throw a sheep to the wolves. Murphy waited until 3 in the morning, but there was still no movement from the cows. But at this moment, Murphy heard the howls of wolves coming from the forest in the distance. That was the wolves' cry for help. Murphy suddenly perked up and jumped out of the treetop, skimming across the night sky. Although Murphy hadn't fully awakened his vampire bloodline, but some abilities were gradually awakening. For example, gliding in the night sky, and an extraordinary physique. Murphy tapped lightly on the next treetop and flew more than 20 meters away again. At this moment he was close to flying. However, this ability could only be used at night. Once it was daytime, he seemed to have lost the ability to glide. Murphy's speed was extremely fast. In just a moment, he had already traveled 2 kilometers. At this moment, the howls of the wolves became louder and louder. Murphy swooped down. From midair, Murphy could see the situation at the scene. An unknown beast that was close to 3 meters tall was fighting with the pack of wolves. It was more of a massacre than a struggle. There were already 7 or 8 wolves lying on the ground. The beast was still unscathed. Its black fur made it look glossy in the night. There were more than 10 wild wolves around them. The beast was about the same size as a lion or tiger, but it looked more powerful, faster, and more ferocious. These wild wolves were a combination of several wolf packs. Murphy recognized them. To be precise, he remembered their smell. The wolves also remembered Murphy. Therefore, when Murphy appeared, they did not attack him. Murphy pounced on the beast. The beast, which had its back to Murphy, seemed to sense the danger behind it. It suddenly turned around and bit at Murphy with its bloody mouth. Murphy was shocked. The beast's reaction was too fast. Murphy had no doubt that its bloody mouth could bite off his neck in one bite. Moreover, Murphy was falling at this time. There was no way for him to adjust his direction so quickly in such a short distance. Suddenly, a wild wolf pounced on the beast's neck. The wild wolf's whole body was hanging on the beast's neck, trying its best to push the beast's bloody mouth away. The beast slapped the wild wolf, hanging on its neck, to the ground with its paw. It pressed the wild wolf to the ground with its paw and opened its bloody mouth directly. "Whimper," the wild wolf wailed. Its body spasmed twice and lost its strength. Blood splattered on Murphy's face. In an instant, Murphy's eyes turned red. "Ha!" A low growl came out of Murphy's mouth. His fangs were exposed uncontrollably. "Hiss!" Murphy's figure flashed. He passed by the beast at an unprecedented speed. "Roar!" A bloody mark was left on the beast's head. It was finally injured, but at the same time, it also aroused its ferocity. The beast roared and pounced on Murphy. Murphy didn't dodge the pounce and was directly pressed under the beast. Murphy instinctively clasped the beast's abdomen from below with his limbs. The beast tried to attack Murphy with its claws or fangs, but it just couldn't touch Murphy. At this moment, the wild wolf also launched its final attack. They went up and directly bit various parts of the beast's body with their teeth. Although the wild wolf's fangs couldn't break the beast's skin, it still used its own way to restrain this crazy beast. At this moment, Murphy directly clasped the beast's neck with his fangs. The beast felt the pain and began to roll wildly on the ground. It tried to rub Murphy off its body, but Murphy had already used all his strength on this at this moment. The paralyzing poison seeped out of the fangs and began to seep into the beast's body. The beast's struggle became weaker and weaker, but Murphy couldn't stop at this moment. He greedily sucked every drop of the beast's blood. When the last drop of blood was sucked dry, Murphy tore off the beast's neck. Roar! Murphy looked up to the sky and roared. The remaining dozen wild wolves also began to bite the beast crazily. They were venting their anger and avenging their companions at the same time. Soon these wild wolves dismembered the beast. Murphy gradually calmed down. At this moment, Murphy saw something glowing red in the wreckage of the beast. What is this? Murphy picked up the thing and found that it was an electronic device. This electronic device was very small, only the size of a fingernail, and it was it that was flashing red. At the same time, in a spherical building, countless staff in white coats were busy here. The vital signs of evolution number 6 have disappeared. How is that possible? There are no creatures that can threaten evolutionaries there. The reason is unknown. Can you find the location? Yes, the locator is not destroyed. Immediately lock the location of evolution number 6 and find out the reason. Chapter 2488. Murphy. Rebecca saw Murphy, who was covered in blood, stumbling through the door. She immediately rushed forward to help him. Rebecca was frightened. She'd never seen Murphy like this. Rebecca laid Murphy down on the sofa and peeled off his shirt to check his injuries. But she realized that there were no wounds on him. It wasn't Murphy's blood? Then whose bloodstain was this? Rebecca suddenly felt that this was a tricky situation. Murphy didn't have any wounds, but he seemed to be in a bad state. Should she call the doctor? Or Chen Zhao? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly there was a whistling sound outside. What's that sound? Rebecca pulled open the curtains and saw a beam of light shining down from the night sky. Helicopter? Rebecca was a little surprised. Just then, 4 rails dropped from the helicopter. 4 fully armed gunmen descended from the sky. They were all wearing heat-sensing devices. Confirmed. The tracking device is in this room. There are 2 vital signs in the room. 1 female, 1 male. The male's body temperature is abnormal. From the device, the 4 gunmen realized that Rebecca's body temperature was normal, while Murphy's was obviously lower than normal. Confirmed. The 2 people in the room don't have any weapons. Prepare for a frontal assault. Rebecca was scared out of her wits. After a moment of panic, she suddenly realized that she had to find reinforcements. Rebecca hurriedly unlocked her phone, but in her panic, she pressed the wrong button several times. Clang! Just then, the floor-to-ceiling window in front of Rebecca was smashed. 2 metal cans were thrown in. Then thick smoke spewed out of them. Cough, cough. Rebecca inhaled a lot of smoke. Then, a strong arm pressed her to the ground. The female target is under control. The male target is also. Bang. What happened? Where's the male? Kay's in trouble. He's dead. What exactly happened? Whoosh, dank. The second gunner was grabbed by the hand that stretched out from the fog and pulled into the fog. Dank. Hear the answer, hear the answer. Suddenly, the gunman heard something rolling on the ground. He looked down and saw Dank's head. This gave him a fright. Ben Rowe, fire at will. That man is still here. He killed Guy and Dank. While the gunner was informing his teammates, he did not notice a pair of blood-red eyes staring at him from the darkness. Ah! With a scream, the gunman holding Rebecca was the only one left in the room. The gunner was a little frightened. He hadn't even seen anyone, but his 3 fully armed and well-trained teammates had already disappeared. What was wrong with the man in the room? Don't move. Come out, or your woman will. The gunslinger had no choice but to use Rebecca to threaten Murphy, who, suddenly, a figure flashed through the thick smoke. The gunman immediately pulled out his gun and fired. But in the next instant, The machine gun in the gunner's hand was grabbed by another hand. How is this possible? The gunman was shocked. How could a person who was just a few meters away suddenly appear in front of him? Since the machine gun's body was grabbed, the gunner could not change direction even if he wanted to. However, the gunman was well trained after all. He immediately pulled out his gun and pointed it at Murphy behind him. However, the moment he turned around, he saw a bloody mouth coming at him. Right now the pilot on the helicopter kept calling for his 4 teammates. But there was still no response. Clearly, something had happened to them in the room. You don't need to call for them anymore. The pilot suddenly heard a voice behind him. Turning around, he saw that someone had appeared in the back seat of the helicopter without him knowing. The person's face was covered in blood, making him look especially terrifying. Beep 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 boom. The helicopter crashed. Mr. Chen, something happened to Murphy. Something happened? What happened? Hurry and come over. The police will be here soon. Police? No matter what, don't answer any questions before the lawyer and I arrive, Chen Zhao said immediately. Got it. Chen Zhao did not understand what had happened. He could only inform Alex hurriedly and rushed to Murphy's house overnight. When he arrived, he saw a burning helicopter in front of Murphy's house. The police had already cordoned off the place. Rebecca was sitting in front of the house, shivering on the ground with a sheet draped over her. Sir, you can't go in here. The police stopped Chen Zhao, who was about to walk in. Kid, are you from Mountain Town's police station? Who are you? The young officer looked at Chen Zhao in confusion. I sponsored the construction of Mountain Town's police station. Your car, air conditioner, and even your overtime pay are all sponsored by me. The young officer immediately understood who Chen Zhao was. Mr. Chen, the young officer said helplessly, LAPD has taken over this place. I can only guard the perimeter. Don't worry. I know someone from LAPD. But no one will blame you. Even if someone does, I'll help you deal with it. Chen Zhao patted the young officer's shoulder and pulled open the cordon. The young officer did not dare to offend Chen Zhao. After all, half of his income was provided by Chen Zhao. His father and brother also worked at Chen Zhao's brewery. His brother's child also studied at the school Chen Zhao sponsored. Making things difficult for Chen Zhao was making things difficult for himself. Chen Zhao strutted over to Rebecca. Rebecca, where's Murphy? Who are you? Why are you here? The officer beside Rebecca looked at Chen Zhao with a scrutinizing gaze. Chen Zhao did not answer the officer's question at all. Murphy is inside. The police want to take him back. Why? What exactly happened here? Chen Zhao asked. Sir, if you don't tell me your identity, I'll have to take forceful measures against you. The officer had already taken out handcuffs. Hey David, are you sleeping? Your men seem to want to take forceful measures against me. Chen Zhao dialed David's number. Just then he heard a familiar voice. You seem to have a habit of asking the boss for support. Chen Zhao turned around and saw Sharon standing behind him with her arms crossed. Hey Sharon, you're not in charge of traffic anymore? Captain, do you know him? The previous officer asked. Sharon looked at Chen Zhao with a dark expression. Why are you here? Chapter 2489. Something happened to my employee. Is it weird that I'm here? Plus, my house is nearby. Your employee? You're a captain now. Chen Zhao asked curiously. What team are you in charge of? We're the Special Crimes team. What are we in charge of? Special cases. Sharon did not elaborate. Confidential? Sort of. Is my employee related to the case you're in charge of? Sharon pointed at the helicopter that was burning and crashing. The symbol on the helicopter is Cerberus. And Cerberus is the largest organization in North America that produces and sells contraband. They also engage in kidnapping, human trafficking, organ trafficking, and all sorts of illegal experiments. What does this have to do with my employee? That's what I'm most curious about. Why was your employee attacked by the Cerberus organization? Most importantly, your employee actually killed 4 well-trained mercenaries. I want to see my employee. Sharon remained silent. Chen Zhao added, my lawyer will be here soon. You don't want to deal with them, right? Fine, I'll give you 3 minutes. Chen Zhao saw Murphy. Murphy was in the room. Under Sharon's order, 2 police officers walked out. Murphy was curled up in a corner shivering. It seemed like he was frightened too. Murphy. Boss. Murphy looked up at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao looked at Murphy. You drank blood? Murphy nodded. His face and body were covered in blood. Murphy raised his head and looked at Chen Zhao in fear. Then he nodded silently. In the past, Murphy had lived like a normal person. There were no problems. At most, his body was slightly better than normal. Once he drank blood, his body would improve greatly. But after drinking blood, he would become addicted. Tell me what happened. Murphy took out a tracking device and said, maybe this thing led those people here. Tracking device? Where did it come from? Murphy told Chen Zhao what had happened last night. Hearing this, Chen Zhao frowned. In other words, the Cerberus organization was the one who released the beast to his ranch? It was probably to collect data. However, this behavior clearly displeased Chen Zhao. Could it be that he had an honest face? Why did they put this thing in front of their own house? Then, Chen Zhao looked at Murphy. Are you disobedient? Boss. I'll deal with you later. When the police ask you later, just say that you don't know anything. You don't know why they attacked you. Boss, I killed 5 people, and even shot down a helicopter. That was self-defense. Why do you care so much? After that, Alex came. Chen Zhao left after saying a few words. Agnes, your son seems to be in trouble. What trouble? He's being chased by an organization called the Cerberus. And he drank human blood today. What's the specific situation? Chen Zhao told her everything he knew. After a moment of silence, Agnes said, you shouldn't have let Murphy take the risk. Please don't put the blame on me. I've already given him a few days off, but he insisted on taking the risk. I can't watch over him all the time. Let's not talk about who's responsible now. We need to solve the problem first. Fine. How do you want to solve it? Chen Zhao asked. I've never heard of this Cerberus organization. I need to investigate it. Then I'll wait for your good news. After Agnes ended the call, Sharon walked over. Chen, we're friends, right? Of course. Especially after you stopped checking my license on the road. We're real friends. So you didn't treat me as a friend before? It's hard to be friends with someone who always finds me on the road. Fine. I don't want to dwell on this. I want to know what information you have, and how much do you know? My employee picked up a locator and was attacked by the Cerberus organization. If he's just a normal employee, how could he kill 4 fully armed mercenaries? Oh, and he shot down a helicopter. He's not a normal employee. He's the security guard of my manor. I'm not satisfied with this explanation. Other than this, I can't give you any other explanation. Chen Zhao shrugged. I've investigated him. He's only 20 and doesn't have any special training. How could he kill so many mercenaries? No matter how he killed those 5 people, at least his actions and motives are legal. Chen, I thought that letting you see your employee was enough to show my sincerity. Sharon, you've changed. In the past, you were upright and would find me every time you saw me. Now, you know how to talk to me about the ways of the world. Sharon's face darkened and she trembled in anger. If you don't want to tell me, then don't expect me to make things easier for you in the future. Seeing Sharon leave in a huff, Chen Zhao could only shrug. He couldn't take Sharon to see the beast's carcass, right? However, thinking of the carcass, Chen Zhao still decided to go and take a look. Perhaps he could find some clues. Following the location Murphy had provided, Chen Zhao found the carcass. By now, the carcass was scattered all over the place. However, most of its skeleton and organs were still intact. Chen Zhao put away the carcass and went back to study it. Looking at the wolf carcasses around him, Chen Zhao piled them up and cremated them. Just then, a helicopter suddenly flew past in the sky. Chen Zhao couldn't help but frown. Was it the Cerberus organization again? Were they searching for the carcass of the beast? Chen Zhao was considering whether he should let them search here and then follow them. Just then, Chen Zhao saw the logo on the helicopter. It wasn't an evil organization's helicopter. It was the logo of the forest rescue team. Usually, when travelers got lost or went missing in the forest, helicopters would be sent out to search for them. It seemed that it had nothing to do with him. Chen Zhao gave up on his initial idea. The helicopter only hovered in the sky for a minute, and then left. Chen Zhao was about to leave when he suddenly felt a human presence at the edge of the small world. However, it was very weak, and there were signs of wolf activity. Chapter 2490. Darren Heimerker hadn't drunk water for 2 days. It had been 3 days since he'd started exploring the desert and separated from the group. He'd used up all his water on the first day. He'd been unconscious for 6 hours during the day. He'd been exposed to the sun for a few hours. Fortunately, he'd woken up in the evening. If he hadn't woken up then, he would have definitely frozen to death. The temperature in the desert would plummet to below zero at night. The desert was such an extreme environment. During the day, one would die of thirst. At night, one would freeze to death. However, at night, the biggest threat wasn't the low temperature, but the wolves. Right now, Darren Heimerker was facing the threat of the wolves. Those deep eyes were wandering in the dark night. That was the vision of the wolves. They weren't in a hurry to attack Darren Heimerker. They seemed to know Darren Heimerker's condition. They were waiting for Darren Heimerker to fall by himself. Then, they could go up and share the food without paying any price. Darren Heimerker was already staggering. Every step he took was extremely difficult. The wolves were also gradually approaching. Actually, they didn't need to go through so much trouble. As long as they pounced, Darren Heimerker wouldn't be able to resist at all. The dagger in his pocket was just a form of self-comfort. It had no use. Awoo. At this moment the pack of wolves howled. They seemed to have run out of patience. Darren Heimerker started running. He also realized that the wolves were preparing to attack. However, even if he ran at full speed, he could only buy a little time. At this moment, a wolf pounced on him and bit his arm. Darren Heimerker couldn't break free. He rolled on the ground with the wolf. The wolf was extremely fast. Before Darren Heimer could react, it had already climbed back up and pounced on Darren Heimer. "I'm dead." Darren Heimerker had already given up. He felt that there was no hope. Suddenly, just as the wolf was about to pounce on him, it flew backward without any warning. Darren Heimerker froze. He looked back and realized that someone had appeared behind him without him knowing. Scram! Chen Zhao raised a foot and kicked a wolf that pounced at him. Chen Zhao recognized the wolf pack, so he didn't kill them. The wolves howled at Chen Zhao and then ran away dejectedly. Darren Hemiko stared at Chen Zhao in shock. There was clearly no one nearby just now. Why did someone suddenly appear out of nowhere? Moreover, such a person kicked the wolf over and chased it away? No matter how Darren thought about it, it didn't seem right. Chen Zhao reached out to Darren. "Are you okay?" But Darren suddenly rolled away from Chen Zhao and took out his gun at the same time. "Don't come over. Who are you? Is this how you treat your benefactor? Answer me first. Who are you? Who do you think I am when you trespass on my ranch?" "Ranch? You're the owner of the ranch here." Darren Heimer was shocked. If there was a ranch, did that mean he was close to human habitation? That couldn't be right. How could a ranch owner wander around in the middle of the night without a weapon? Maybe I shouldn't have saved you. Instead, I should have let you get eaten by the wolves. Darren Hemiko hesitated for a moment. It seemed to be true. If he was one of those people, he indeed didn't need to do anything. He only needed to watch Chen Zhao get eaten by the wolves. He didn't need to waste time with Chen Zhao at all. "Sorry." Darren Heimerko finally put down his gun. "Why do you think I'm a bad person?" "Sorry, I was thinking too much," Darren said with his head lowered. However, he didn't trust Chen Zhao completely. Chen Zhao put his hands in his pockets. "Do you need me to call the police?" "No. No need. Can I have some food and water?" "Sorry, I don't bring strangers to my house." With that, Chen Zhao turned to leave. If he hadn't threatened him with a gun just now, he didn't mind taking him home, giving him some food and drinks, and also notifying the police or rescue team. But from his reaction, he didn't seem to be just lost. He probably had other troubles on him as well. Darren stared at Chen Zhao, his eyes flickering. "Sir, please don't reject someone who has a gun." "Huh? If you could use your gun, you wouldn't have kept it hidden when the wolves were chasing you." Chen Zhao looked at Darren mockingly. "You're right. You're right." Darren's expression changed. Indeed, it was as Chen Zhao had said. There were no bullets in his gun. "So your threat is meaningless." Chen Zhao walked toward Darren step by step. Darren couldn't help but take a few steps back. In this environment, your life and death are in my hands, so what you did just now was very unwise. Sir, I was just joking. No, it wasn't. Darren pulled out his dagger. Don't come any closer. I'll kill you. Chen Zhao shrugged with a smile. Fine, you win. Goodbye. Seeing Chen Zhao leave so easily, Darren Himiko could not help but hesitate. It seemed that this guy wasn't as strong as he'd imagined. Disdain rose in Darren's heart again. Stop right there. What can I do for you? Chen Zhao stopped again, and turned to look at Darren. I have a knife now, so you have to listen to me. Cold weapons can't create absolute deterrence. Are you sure you can threaten me with a dagger? Chen Zhao walked toward Darren again. Plus, I'm full of energy right now while you're exhausted. You have no advantage in terms of fighting or running. What makes you think that a dagger can make me listen to you? Darren's face suddenly became very ugly. He couldn't help but wave his dagger, as if to embolden himself. I'm not joking with you. Do you know the wolves haven't gone far? And there are not only wolves here, but there are also North American brown bears. You don't have to scare me. Howl. Actually, the howl came from Black Ma and White Ma nearby. The two of them usually mingled with the nearby wolves, and were basically the leaders of these wolves. Hearing the howls of the wolves, Darren Himiko shivered in fear. Just then, he saw the wolves appear in the darkness again. Chapter 2491. Darren Himiko was so scared that he peed his pants. He saw a dozen wolves standing on a slope not far away. He hadn't seen the two leading wolves before, but they were more than twice the size of the others. Darren Himiko was trembling with fear. The wolf pack started approaching them. Darren turned around and ran in the opposite direction. However, 2 legs couldn't outrun 4 legs. Soon, Darren Himiko was surrounded by the wolves. Go find that person. Why are you all chasing me? Darren was both scared and angry. Even these animals bullied people like this? Just then, Chen Zhao walked over slowly. Look, I told you that your dagger is useless. Chen Zhao stood outside the wolf pack's encirclement. Darren stared at Chen Zhao in disbelief. Why? Why aren't they attacking you? The 2 biggest wolves are my pets. Do you expect them to attack me? You're thinking too much. I'm joking. I was really joking. Joking again? Chen Zhao wasn't angry at Darren's reply. Smiling, he said, Fine, I'm joking with you too. You can run now. What are you talking about? You're going to watch me die? Yes. Chen Zhao nodded and checked the time on his phone. You can run for 5 minutes first. Then the wolves will chase you. If you're caught, you'll become part of them forever. I won't play this boring game with you. Really? Do you think running is a boring game? Chen Zhao looked at Darren. Then you can wait here for 5 minutes. Oh, you still have 4 minutes and 45 seconds, 42 seconds. Darren Himiko suddenly broke into a run. He didn't dare to joke with his life. As he ran, Darren Himiko suddenly saw a light in front of him. A town? Darren Himiko was a little shocked, but he was more surprised than surprised. Darren Himiko ran towards the light excitedly. Soon he realized that he was in the town. Help! Help! Things on Sharon's side were more or less settled. Alex was too difficult to deal with. Sharon couldn't even bring Murphy and Rebecca back to the police station. This made Sharon very depressed. At the same time, she hated Chen Zhao. Captain, we found a lost person over there. And he's on the search and rescue list of the forest rescue team. Why are you talking to me about this? Contact the local mountain rescue team and call an ambulance for him. Sharon waved her hand indifferently. Captain, that person carries a dagger with him. What's so strange about that? It's normal for people to carry a dagger in the desert. Captain, look. The subordinate handed a dagger to Shalon. She took it and saw a mark on the handle, Cerberus. Sharon couldn't help but frown. Where is he? The subordinate brought Sharon to Darren Himiko. I'm going to call the police. Someone wants to kill me. Someone wants to kill me, Darren Himiko shouted. Who wants to kill you? You can tell us, Sharon said. An Asian. That asterisk shoal met me in the desert and released a wolf pack to chase me. He wants the wolves to eat me. Asian? Wolf pack. Sharon's first thought was Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao had only left for less than an hour. How did he meet him in the desert again? Bullshit. Just then an old policeman shouted. There are only two wolves in Chen's family, Black Ma and White Ma. They're two good kids. This was a policeman from the Dasham police station. Black Ma and White Ma would usually wander around the town. After spending more time with them, he naturally fell in love with Black Ma and White Ma. Sometimes, Black Ma and White Ma would even help the police station and the townspeople. Sometimes, when the children in the town got lost, the two of them would volunteer to help look for them. With their sense of smell, they would most likely be able to find them. If someone said that Chun Zhao released a wolf to bite people, no one would believe it. Outsiders like Sharon might believe it, but the townspeople definitely wouldn't. Seeing this, Sharon knew that it was useless to ask Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao had 10,000 ways to avoid it. Even if it was true and Darren Hamiko's confession was useless. What's the matter? Bring him back first. Wait. I need treatment. I need to go to the hospital. Sir, I'll bring the doctor to you. As for the hospital, you don't have to go. Why? I'm a legal citizen. I have the right to ask for treatment at the hospital. I'm afraid not. I suspect that you're involved in some illegal organization and work, so you need to be investigated. Cerberus Research Base. Is there any progress on number 6 accidental death? Muato. The security team sent an armed helicopter and a team to the coordinates sent by the locator, but they're all dead. The helicopter also crashed and attracted the police's attention. All dead. Are you sure you won't be exposed? Number 6 accidental death is an accident, but Darren Hamiko's betrayal is the biggest problem. You still haven't caught Darren Hamiko? He's already in the police's hands. Once his identity in our organization is exposed, our research base will be affected. It's best to move away before the police find us. How much information does Darren Hamiko know about us? Other than the location of the research base, he also stole 3 sets of research materials. What about his family? Muato asked coldly. When he joined our organization, it was premeditated. The information we found about his family has nothing to do with him. Even the longing he shows for his family is just an act. Go back and tell all the evolved people, Muato said. Also pack up immediately. We have to leave in 3 days. 3 days is a bit of a rush. If possible, I want to leave now, but there are some equipment we can't abandon. What about the orders we have now? They're all from our old customers. We can't lose them. After thinking for a while, Muato said, 5 days. At most 5 days. We have to leave. Pack whatever you can. The research team and development team will leave for the second base first. The production line will be the last to pack. 9 Heavens Divine King. Chapter 2492. Tiger. Tiger looked up at Bach, who was walking in. Bach, you haven't been here for 2 days. Tiger's tone was filled with dissatisfaction. Tiger, didn't you want to fight from abroad? I found one for you. Bach took out a contract. Ah, who? How strong is he? What's his level? Tiger was immediately interested. A Russian boxer. He's in the same heavyweight category as you. Where's the venue? Where's the sponsor? How much is the prize money? He's a famous boxer too. He's already gotten $200 million in sponsorships. 200 million? Tiger sucked in a cold breath. That high? How do we split the prize money? Winner takes all, Bach said. Winner takes all. Does that mean I can get at least 200 million? Tiger was excited. The other party wants us to get more than $200 million. Otherwise, the contract's off. When's the fight? Next Friday. The arena is set in Russia. That means there's only 1 week left. Can we get that many sponsors? 200 million isn't a small amount. So you can't stay at home all day, Bach said. You have to have enough exposure in the media. Also, you have to spend some money to buy popularity. Got it. Tiger nodded. Oh, Bach, do you still have the devil's potion you gave me last time? Do you still want it? Bach looked at Tiger in shock. He didn't expect Tiger to make such a request. In the past, Tiger was such a proud person. He would scoff at any illegal drugs. But now he actually made such a request. He didn't know that Tiger's mentality had changed. On one hand, the devil's potion was very effective and had no obvious side effects. On the other hand, he was suddenly worried about this challenge. To be able to get $200 million in sponsorships meant that the other party's reputation couldn't be underestimated. Even if he stayed at his peak every year, it would be hard for him to win that much in the ring. The prize money from this match was enough for him to fight in the ring for a few years. Of course, he would pay more attention. Yes, but it's not cheap. Not cheap? How much? 10 million, Bach said. What? $10 million? Tiger suddenly stood up and stared at Bach angrily. Bach, you're too much. Are you trying to tell me that the medicine you gave me last time was worth $10 million? Even if you want to get money from me, you should at least find a reasonable reason. You can't just randomly raise the price tag, and it's such an outrageous price. He had also been working with Bach for some time. He roughly knew how much Bach was worth. His net worth was around 2 to 3 million USD. Would he spend $10 million to give her something? It was obviously impossible. Last time it was a trial product. The other party took the initiative to give it to you. It's not the real deal, Bahi said in a calm tone. And the effect of the genuine product is better than the trial product. Think about it. Just the effect of the trial product has already allowed your strength to achieve a qualitative leap. Is the price of the genuine product still considered expensive? But this price is too expensive. Can you negotiate with the other party? There's no bargaining. This kind of medicine needs to be custom-made. It's not something you can buy even if you have money. Moreover, if you don't have contacts, you won't be able to buy it at all. Bach said. Why don't I give you the contact information of the seller, and you contact them yourself? Forget it, you do the contact. Tiger knew he wasn't cut out for that. It was better to leave some things to Bach, even if he knew he would get a certain amount of commission. But there was no other way. Some things were worth Bach's responsibility. For example, if he contacted the other party, and they recorded it, it would be a devastating blow to him. Whether it was a sports star or an entertainment star, they all needed agents and assistants. That was because most of the time, they needed agents and assistants to contact people they weren't suitable to contact. Sign the contract so I can reply to them. Tiger didn't think too much and signed the contract quickly. Arrange for me to go abroad as soon as possible. I need to go there and adapt to the local environment in Russia. Rather than saying adapt, it was more like escaping. Bach muttered in his heart. Tiger was already so strong. How much did he fear that teacher of his? Got it. Bach nodded. I'll arrange it for you as soon as possible. Hello, Mr. Muato, I'm Bach. We've contacted before. I remember you, Bach. You're the agent of a sports star, right? Yes, Mr. Muato. I'm contacting you this time to buy a complete devil's mixture from you. Sure. But we need to move our production base, so we can't make it for you immediately. You'll have to wait for 2 weeks. Mr. Muato, I need it urgently. We can negotiate the price. I'm not trying to bargain with you. We've indeed run into some trouble. We need to move our production base and lab. Mr. Muato, don't you want to hear my price? Price? How much are you offering? $3 million, Bach said. Muato's eyes flashed and he hesitated. His public price was $1 million for one mixture. And the price that Bahi gave him was indeed very tempting. Although they'd already developed the finished product, they'd also started turning it into merchandise. But it was still in the beginning stages. They couldn't break even yet. Also, they ran into trouble recently. The entire lab had to be moved. That was another large sum of money. He'd already invested all the money he could. There was still a huge gap. $5 million. Just as Muato was about to reply, Bach raised the price again. Mr. Muato, you know that I'm the agent of a sports star. In my company there are many sports stars. We'll need more than one. As long as you're willing to help me, I'll be your biggest client in the near future. $5 million. Muato was finally tempted. Bring me the hair and blood samples as soon as possible. It's best if you can provide them to me today. Sure. Happy cooperation. Happy working with you. Muatua thought to himself. Although time was tight, Bach's suggestion was indeed tempting. Jyotian Divine Emperor. Chapter 2493. Muato contacted his superior again. Mr. Vincent. What's the matter? One of our researchers betrayed us. He escaped from the institute, and took some research data with him. According to our insider, the researcher is now in the hands of the police. I don't know how much information Darren Heimko will expose about the institute, and I don't know what the government will do after obtaining this information. However, there is a high probability that the research base will be exposed. Currently, I am arranging for the relocation of the institute, but time is running out. If the government takes action earlier than we expected and mobilizes the army, then the institute is likely to be destroyed. How much force do you expect the government will mobilize? There's something very dangerous in the research data that Darren Heimko stole. So I think that once the government analyzes this data, it's very likely that they won't allow us to exist. So they'll send a regiment of soldiers, and they'll probably carry heavy weapons. If the U.S. Army uses heavy weapons to wipe out our research institute, the ground units will suffer a devastating blow. At that time, our ground defense system will be destroyed for no reason. I will send some forces to defend you. Mr. Vincent, should we focus on retreating? It's just a regular regiment of armed forces. It's still within the acceptable range. Muoto could feel that Vincent's tone was full of confidence and even expectation. In addition, there is one more thing. One of our experimental subjects, Evolver number 6, was killed when he was collecting data in the real environment. The tracking device installed on Evolver number 6 was also taken away. When I sent an armed team to investigate, they also encountered an accident. Mr. Vincent, should I increase the number of people I have? You didn't put the experimental subjects in a densely populated area, did you? Not in a densely populated area, but in a forest area about 40 kilometers away from a small town. Have you found out the identity of the other party? A young man in his early 20s. All I can find out is that he is a rich man's security guard. He is responsible for patrolling the forests and pastures around the rich man's manor. There is no special information about him. Have you investigated the rich man? According to the local investigation, the rich man's net worth is more than $1 billion. Try not to provoke this kind of person, Vincent said. Even though he had absolute power, he did not want to provoke rich people. Rich people were a very troublesome group in this country. They would fight among themselves for benefits. But if a force from outside their circle intervened and harmed any of them, they would become extremely united. And every single one of them had unparalleled influence. If the entire group united, they could even shake an entire country. Thus, even Vincent did not like to provoke these rich people. Chun Tiger has already signed the contract. The competition is next Friday, and the arena is in Moscow, Russia. Moscow, Russia? Chun Zhao frowned. Why there? It's too far away. Chun Zhao planned to watch the competition, but the venue was set there. This gave him a headache. In principle, he was not willing to go so far for such a small matter. At present, in addition to the North American region, several other top heavyweight boxers are from Eastern Europe. In addition, most of the broadcast rights were sold to European television stations. Okay, leave some tickets for me, Chun Zhao said. Chun, you can guarantee that Syndicate will win, right? Yes. I won't joke with my $200 million. That means I'll definitely make money if I bet with the underground banker, right? What are the odds for Tiger and Syndicate in the underground market now? 1042. 44, Alex said. Is the odds that high? They're not on the same level in terms of strength and fame. If he bet a lot, can the underground banker pay that much? Chun, if you bet a few $100 million, the underground banker will definitely go back on his word. But if it's only a few tens of millions, the underground banker will consider your strength and won't risk offending you. Help me place a bet of $50 million US. Also, keep an eye on the banker. If he does anything wrong, let me know. Chun, are you sure you want to bet $50 million? It's quite risky. I've already bet $200 million. Why would I care about $50 million? Fine. You're the boss. Whatever you say. I'll bet $5 million too. As soon as Chun Zhao hung up, he received a call from West. President, I need to discuss something with you. What? I heard you're organizing a boxing match, right? Yes. What's wrong? Our association still has more than $10 million left this year. You want to bet too? Yes. If we can make money this time, We'll have more funds next year. Sure. Chen Zhao had no reason to reject West's suggestion. But I've already bet $50 million. If you add another $10 million, the underground banker will definitely feel the pressure. It's hard to guarantee that they won't skip the bet. President, it's not $10 million. It's a total of $30 million. Everyone in the association with some savings wants to bet with you. Even Aduz has $300,000. It doesn't matter, Chen Zhao said. It's not a lot. The underground banker has to pay us. If he got the meat, there was no reason he couldn't let his subordinates drink the soup. Chen Zhao thought about it. Putting aside whether the underground banker could pay that much money, first he had to let Sin win. But then he considered Tiger's abnormal growth in power. Chen Zhao couldn't help but suspect whether Tiger had used a second method to increase his power other than his own. If that was the case, with the training he gave Sin and the method to stimulate his potential, he might not be able to win for sure. It seemed that Chen Zhao had to make Sin even more powerful. Then he called Gaia. Chen Zhao hadn't told the association about the match between Sin and Tiger. Only Gaia knew about it, so Gaia must have told the association. Gaia probably invested a lot of money too. Chapter 2494. Xinjia. Today's training ends here, Gaia called. Xinjia looked at Gaia in surprise. It's only been an hour. Why are you so fast? Not only was the training duration wrong, but the way it ended was also wrong. Every time Gaia finished training, Xinjia would KO him with one punch. Then he would spasm on the ground for 20 minutes or pass out. But this time, Gaia only told him verbally that the training was over. Why is today's training so short? Your boss has other plans for you. Other plans? For some reason, Xinjia had a bad feeling about this. I'll take you to see your boss. Sitting in Gaia's car, Xinjia felt like he was about to escape. For some reason, the closer he got to his destination, the more danger he felt. But Gaia kept driving with one hand and leaning against the window with the other. The car sped down the road in the forest. Xinjia was worried that the car would fly off the road at any moment. The car drove all the way to a building in the depths of the forest. Xinjia saw an old man sitting in the security room at the entrance. He only opened the door after Gaia called him. The 4-story building in front of him was built horizontally, and it looked more like a modern style. But for some reason, Xinjia always had a creepy feeling. Many eyes seemed to be staring at him from the glass windows of the building. Just then Chen Zhao walked out of the headquarters. He walked to Gaia's car. Xinjia, why aren't you getting off? Boss. Xinjia gulped. Boss, where is this? It's none of your business, Chen Zhao said indifferently. Just then a crane drove over. There was a 5-meter-wide pot hanging on its arm. Under Gaia's command, the pot was placed on the rack. Go into the pot, Chen Zhao said. Boss, this joke isn't funny at all. I'm not joking. Go in. You want to cook me? My intention isn't to cook you, but the process is similar. Xinjia's expression stiffened. Seeing Chen Zhao's serious gaze, he suddenly turned to run. But as soon as he turned around, Gaia punched his stomach. Xinjia fell to the ground in pain. However, he did not lose consciousness. He could feel Gaia lifting him up. Then, with a forceful throw, Xinjia was thrown several meters into the air before being thrown into the cauldron. Then, a large amount of liquid was poured in. It was a very fishy smell. It seemed to be the blood of some animal. Syndicate had also regained some of his strength. He wanted to climb out of the cauldron. However, the curved edges and the slippery bottom of the pot made it impossible for him to reach the edge of the pot, much less climb out. Just then another large bone was thrown in from outside. Then there were all kinds of herbs. Syndicate was getting more and more terrified. This step was like stewing soup. He was the main ingredient, and just now he was the seasoning. The pot began to heat up, and Xinjia's struggle became more and more intense. But due to the limitations of the pot's shape, no matter how much he struggled, it was useless. Just then, Hinga saw a few young people on the rooftop of the building. They were leaning against the fence and looking down at the situation below. Zinga immediately waved his hand. Help! Help! Help me! The few people also noticed Syndicate and waved with a smile. But they had no objections, and no one went to save him. Syndicate did not understand what was going on here. What was wrong with these people? Also, what was Chen Zhao and Gaia doing? He could not understand. He could not understand. Chen Zhao had clearly invested so much in him. Why would he do this? Could it be that everything that happened before was just a fool? Syndicate thought about how Chen Zhao had shown his bad taste many times before. He suddenly felt that this was the real Chen Zhao. He had given himself hope, then killed himself in a cruel way. The water temperature rose very slowly, but this increased Syndicate's fear. Syndicate suddenly felt that Chen Zhao was going to cook him. Then it seemed reasonable for him to discuss Chen Zhao before he died. The water was still heating up. Determined to die, Syndicate polluted the water in the pot. However, Syndicate waited for half an hour. The water temperature remained around 60 degrees. It was hot, but not scalding. Another half an hour passed. Suddenly, Syndicate realized that the pot was tilting. As if he had grasped the hope of survival, Syndicate jumped out of the pot. Syndicate rolled on the ground a few times. Syndicate stood up and started running. But before he could take a step, his foot was hooked, and he rolled on the ground. "Where are you going?" Chen Zhao asked Syndicate. "I've had enough of you, you bunch of lunatics." Syndicate roared and jumped up, as if he was going to fight Chen Zhao. "President, I bet $800,000 on him," an elite said, clenching his fists. "Don't fight. Let me do it." Xianjia glanced at an elite. What kind of person did he think he was? This man wasn't that strong. Syndicate swung his fist at an elite. However, an elite was faster than him, and easily dodged Syndicate's attack. Then, he threw an uppercut and Syndicate fell to the ground. Thankfully, this punch felt weaker than Gaia's. But soon he was controlled again. Then he was thrown back into the pot. The water in the pot was changed again. Then he was added. Finally, he was thrown in. Syndicate felt like he was going crazy. Either these people were crazy or they were crazy. This time, Syndicate gave up resisting and let the lunatics cook him. But 2 hours later, Syndicate realized that he wasn't cooked. It was just a repeat of the previous process. He was thrown out of the pot. Then the water was changed and the ingredients were added. He was sent into the pot for the third time. The first time, he thought it was because he had polluted the pot. But the second time he accepted his fate. They still changed the water for him. Syndicate couldn't understand this strange and mysterious action at all. Then he went in and out of the pot for the fourth time and the fifth time. Syndicate cooked from afternoon to past 10 at night. "Okay, you can come down now." When Syndicate came down from the pot, Gaia tossed him a set of clothes. "Put it on. Today's special event is over." Syndicate was confused. What the hell was going on today? He thought that he would be cooked and then eaten by these terrifying perverts. But nothing happened. He couldn't understand what these people were doing at all. Was it an evil ritual like those in movies? Divine Emperor of the Nine Heavens. Chapter 2495. On the way back, Hinga once again sat in Gaia's car. Although he was not very willing, but considering the journey back to the city, he finally sat in Gaia's car. "What did you do to me?" Gaia silently looked at Hinga. "To make you stronger." "Stronger? That method that looks like witchcraft can make me stronger?" Suddenly, Gaia lifted her leg and kicked Hinga's body without warning. Hinga was still in a daze. His whole body smashed through the car door and fell out of the high-speed car. He rolled a few times on the road and was covered with bruises. Hinga struggled to get up. At this moment, he was still in a daze. Then he saw Gaia suddenly turn the car in front of him. Hinga swallowed his saliva and looked at the car in front of him in horror. "Madman, you are all madmen. What are you doing? Are you trying to kill me?" "Virum!" Gaia stepped on the accelerator, and the car directly crashed into Hinga. "Ah!" Hinga screamed. His whole body suddenly jumped up and did a 360-degree somersault in the air. The car raced beneath him. Hinga could not believe that he could actually do such a move. Moreover, it was in such an emergency situation. But his feet just landed on the ground, and he did not have time to stand firm. The rear of Gaia's car suddenly swung over. It directly hit Hinga and sent him flying, landing on the grass by the roadside. Gaia got down from the car. "Ah, I will kill you." Hinga gathered his courage and directly jumped towards Gaia. But the next moment, Gaia lifted her leg and directly kicked Hinga away. Zinger slammed into the trunk of a sapling behind him. The tree was directly broken. Hinga covered his back. "What are you trying to do? Stand up and hit me." Hinga's chest heaved up and down. He grabbed the tree on the ground and rushed towards Gaia. Crack bang. Gaia smashed the tree with her fist and then swept her leg across Hinga's face. Xanjia somersaulted in midair and fell to the ground in a sorry state. But this time, Hinga did not need to say anything. Hinga stood up. However, his determination did not last long. He could not straighten his back under Gaia's punches. Singa picked up a boulder that weighed more than 20 kilograms, raised it above his head, and smashed it towards Gaia. Bang! Gaia's fist thundered out. Xanjia's mouth was wide open. The stone was smashed into pieces by Gaia's fist. How terrifying! How much power, and how hard was the fist needed to smash the stone into smithereens? "What exactly do you want?" Sinka roared. He couldn't beat her, but this woman was simply a tyrannosaurus. "Don't you think it's strange? I just used 3 times my usual strength, and you've already suffered so many blows, but you can still stand up." Hearing Gaia's words, Syndicate suddenly realized something. "Did you really use 3 times your normal strength just now?" Gaia suddenly turned around and punched the trunk of a nearby tree. She blasted a dent into the tree trunk. Xianjia felt his scalp go numb. The female Tyrannosaurus in front of him was a monster with no limits. "Both your boss and I have invested a lot of money in you. Of course, there are other things besides money. If you fail, it will be a huge loss for us. As revenge, we will directly fill you with cement and then sink you into the sea. So don't doubt our determination. We are willing to pay any price to win. Don't think that what we do is meaningless. It may seem strange to you, but it doesn't mean that it's meaningless." Including throwing me into a pot to cook today? In China, there is a special method. It is to put medicine and beast bones into a pot, and then let people soak in it. Their bodies will absorb the medicine and improve their fitness, Gaia said. Even now, there are still such steaming baths in China. Your boss is an expert in this. He knows better than anyone how to improve a person's fitness. Before you and Tiger, he had 2 other successful cases. They were both the best athletes in their respective fields. Tiger was supposed to be the 3rd, but now your boss wants to destroy him. You will be his replacement. So, I wasn't cooked today. I was just in a steaming bath. Is that what you mean? Other than the fact that you contaminated the first pot, your steaming bath is quite effective, Gaia said calmly. And the soup that you've contaminated will also enter your body, along with the medicinal power, and be absorbed by you. Although it won't cause you any harm. Haven't you noticed that your body is filled with a smell? Fortunately, you didn't go overboard or else. Gaia said indifferently. Syndicate wanted to cry. He suddenly realized that he had done something stupid. Very, very stupid. Something that even made his stomach turn. This smell. What should I do? It's okay. 2 or 3 days of metabolism will expel these substances. Exercise more and sweat more. It can make your metabolism faster. So, you kicked me out of the car to injure me and increase my metabolism. No, it's because I can't stand your smell, Gaia said calmly. Gaia said indifferently. Also, I need you to pay for the maintenance of my car. I'll put it on you for the time being. Why me? You can discuss this with me when you can beat me. Syndicate was speechless. Even though he felt like he had changed, he still felt helpless when facing Gaia. He couldn't even block a single move. Even now, he was barely able to prevent himself from being knocked out by Gaia with a single punch. When have I ever been able to beat you? No, can I barely fight you? Although I don't want to discourage you, this idea will only exist in your dreams most of the time. Alright, maybe I should focus on how to win this match. Syndicate waved his fists. He felt that his injuries weren't that painful anymore. I should be strong enough to beat Tiger now, right? I'm not sure. But to ensure that you win, I think your boss will give you special training. Will I continue the steaming bath? I don't know. Anyway, he has a way. Just then Gaia's phone rang again. After picking up, Gaia said to Syndicate, Look, your new lesson is here again. Chapter 2496. Muoto watched as a military truck drove into the base. Then, he opened the trunk and found that there was no light in the trunk. When he shone the light into the trunk, he saw 2 rows of soldiers sitting inside. But it wasn't exactly right to call them soldiers. They wore a metal device on their faces that completely blinded their eyes. There was a red flashing stripe on the metal device. It seemed to be a sensing device used to replace the eyes. There was a number on their shaved heads. Their bodies were thick and tall, and each of them was close to 2 meters tall. Their skin was slightly dark, and they were equipped with a strange gun and a dagger. Suddenly, a ray of light lit up in the deepest part of the truck. Muoto was so shocked that he almost fell to the ground. He saw a tall man coming out from the deepest part of the truck. He was also wearing a metal device and had a shaved head. The only difference was that he wasn't equipped with a dagger, because there was a machete on his left arm. "You are Laner Dodge. You can also call me number BA1. Muoto realized that Laner Dodge didn't speak, but he could hear his dull voice. His voice came from a hole in his neck. Muoto realized that there was a metallic luster under the skin around the hole that hadn't been closed yet. There seemed to be a piece of metal under the skin of his neck. No, maybe it wasn't his neck but his entire body. There were pieces of metal under his skin. "I was sent by the boss," Laner Dodge said. Muoto's expression changed slightly. When he first met Vincent, he always thought that Vincent was the boss. Later, he called Vincent boss, but Vincent said that he wasn't the boss, and that the boss was someone else. He didn't expect the boss to send people over this time. "My team and I are responsible for all the safety here. We will take care of all the hidden dangers from the outside." "Welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming, Mr. Laner." Muoto said welcome, but in reality he didn't think so. Although the team sent by the boss seemed to be unique, there were already over 100 people in the lab. However, there were already hundreds of such armed forces in the laboratory. Whether it was firepower or combat power, they were several times stronger than the people in the carriage. The combat power provided by the boss seemed to be meaningless to the overall situation. After all, they were now facing an army equipped with the most powerful weapons in the world, and it was at least a regiment's worth of troops and firepower. This small number of troops, along with the laboratory's original armed forces, might not be able to withstand a wave of carpet attacks from the other side. What was the concept of an American carpet? The capital of a country in the Middle East had once enjoyed a carpet. It was no different from razing the place to the ground. Unless they were hiding in a building 100 meters underground, it would be difficult to ensure their safety above ground. "I heard from the boss that you have some unnatural animal experiments here, right?" Muoto replied calmly. "Can I have a look?" "Here. Of course. They are wild beasts." "I know." Muoto thought for a moment. Randall Dodge was sent by the boss after all. It wasn't the right time for her to argue with him. "Kevin, send a mature evolved human to the surface." "Muoto, are you sure?" "I'm sure. Bring it up. I know what I'm doing." Not long after, a beast cage was brought over. The 4 sides of the cage were covered with metal sheets, and it was very light when the crane lowered it. "Open it," Randall said. "What? Open it now." "That's right. You're crazy. Evolved humans hate light. Once it comes into contact with light, it will either hide in a cave or lose control and start a massacre. You can hide in a safe place." "I know," Randall said calmly. "There are mature ones at the boss's place, and one is their ancestor. All evolved humans are made from the ancestor's cells." Muoto was stunned. Ancestor? He had asked many times where the cells used to create evolvers came from, and now he finally got the answer. It was a primogenitor. As he spoke, Randall Dodge suddenly punched the metal sheet that the evolved human was locked in. Then he lifted it forcefully, and the entire metal sheet was blown away. Roar! It was a black beast that was more than 4 meters long. Its body blended perfectly with the shadows. If one didn't look carefully, one wouldn't even notice its existence. It did not immediately rush out of the cage. Instead, it stood in the shadows, but its bloodthirsty eyes were already emitting a cruel intent. Suddenly, it launched an attack, pouncing towards Randall Dodge without any warning. Just when Muoto thought that Randall Dodge was going to die, and he was about to find a safe place to hide. Randall Dodge pressed the black beast onto the ground with one hand. Moto and Kevin beside him were dumbfounded. After all, it was an adult evolved human. Their strength is greater than that of the strongest land predators in the world. But at this moment, the adult evolved human was pressed to the ground by Laner Dodge with one hand. Randall Dodge pressed his palm against the evolved human's eyes and mumbled. Gradually, the evolved human calmed down. At this moment, Randall Dodge pricked his finger and wiped it on the evolved human's nose. Roar! The evolved human howled. Moto was confused. He didn't understand why he did this. After a while, Randall retracted his hand from the evolved human's eyes and let go of the evolved human. The evolved human was no longer in a frenzied state after coming into contact with light, and he behaved himself in front of Randall Dodge. What did you do to it? I've been modified too. I can see that. In terms of biological structure, we belong to different species. Then I can compete with my eyes closed. In principle, yes, but you'd better be responsible for our bets. Whether it's me or your boss, we don't want our investments to go down the drain. Divine King of the Nine Heavens.